Well, false flag season is upon us, and the geopolitical situation is a little weird, just like this video. Those bananas, as of course, those bananas now are Tomahawk missiles, advanced guided tech that could have a nuclear payload on it. What in the world's going on? As a lot of people are saying that there now is no turning back to the inevitable of potential global conflict, as there's a lot of things happening right now with Iran, Venezuela, and Russia, as there's a lot of talks specifically about false flags right now that are a little bit alarming, a little bit concerning, to say the least. All of this as there are some troop movements, some developments that I think are absolutely worth talking about, as there are a lot of troubling situations developing right now that I fear and I worry about. As we have Western powers saying, no, the Russians are going to do a false flag. As the Russians are coming out saying, no, the West will be the one doing the false flag. Regardless of it, with both countries on this posture, it makes sense that they're going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to do it before you do it. Now, if we're coming from that stage of thinking, if we're seeing these kind of escalatory markers, which Putin's brain, Alexander Dugin, is even worried about himself, talking about how this is crossing the red line, how this is the United States attacking Russia. Where do we go from here? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing in this particular video. And if you appreciate these type of videos where we get into the nitty-gritty of all of the craziness developing right now internationally, subscribe, click the notification button, as of course there's a lot of very important things to get into. Now, yesterday we saw Donald Trump actually address the brass of the U.S. military in a very interesting conversations where they said with the Secretary of War that we have to prepare for war in order to, quote, have peace. There was an interesting Russian response to that we're going to be playing in a little bit. But during the address, Donald Trump talked about how Putin and Russia are giving the United States a difficult time. He talked about how he sent a nuclear-armed submarine to Russia after tough talk from the Russian head of the Security Council, Medvedev, as today, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, discussed these issues with the permanent members of the Security Council. Now, Vladimir Putin is also going to be doing another major address in a few hours from now. We're going to be covering that, talking about that. As the Kremlin now officially responded to the United States and the Secretary of War by saying, you know what, we also are going to strengthen our army for, quote, peace. And then I'm like, really? Really? Like, why are we in such a crazy, wild situation where people are literally like, yeah, I'm going to punch you because we don't want to fight. Like, that's literally what you're saying. Yeah. I want to be a virgin, so I'm going to go to the Puta Dome. All right? Those two don't correlate. They don't. As, listen, the military-industrial complex has us by the, you know what? There hasn't been a kind of correction. There hasn't been an audit. There hasn't been a Doge, Elon Musk type of reprisal of a system that I would say has been extremely predatory, price gouging, and robbing the American taxpayer of a lot of our money. But the United States right now is, let's be honest, on a war footing. From my predictions, from everything that I see here, the way that I see all of this unfolding, honestly, to be quite frank with you, I see Iran getting attacked next, then Venezuela, and then Russia. That's my trajectory. That's my forecast. I hope and I pray that I am wrong. And then after that, China. But China's going to do their own thing. China's going to go after Taiwan. And go, look at that. Look at that nice little piece of land barrier thing that we have, pushing us away from the United States. As at any point during these kind of little proxy conflicts, game over, right? At any time, the situation could get very serious, very hot, and there's no going back from it. It's like, boom, Yeah. Oh, they're sending Tomahawk missiles. One of those Tomahawk missiles might have a nuclear device on them. Well, the Russians are going to send in their, space weapons. They might have a nuclear device on them as well. And I'm like, goodness gracious, why are we doing this? As the Kremlin quote spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says that we prefer to strengthen our armed forces in every possible way, remaining full supporters of peace and remaining open to solving all problems, including the Ukrainian crisis, through diplomatic negotiations and political context. That day is far gone, right? The negotiation table has already been flipped, and it looks like we are not any closer towards any type of resolve, towards any type of deal being made here. As Mario Nafal writes, that the Kremlin brushed off the U.S. War Secretary Hegseth, warning that America must prepare for war in order to secure peace, saying Russia is also beefing up its military in the name of diplomacy. And again, it's just pure saber rattling, pure absolute bedlam and insanity unfolding right in front of our eyes. Trump sent 2 nuclear submarines now off of the coast of Russia. And again, a lot of people are like, well, this is kind of like a misnomer because nuclear submarines from the Russians, from the United States, and even in yesterday's speech by Donald Trump to the U.S. military, he talked about how we're number 1 when it comes to naval forces and nuclear submarines. Russia's number 2. China's number 3, but China's gaining in a way where they're going to be competing with the United States very soon. So you could see the war footing that we're kind of on and how the situation definitely is escalating in many different kind of unforeseen ways. Now, before playing more clips and talking about the kind of false flag angle here out of all of this, we wanted to tell you about wearechange.shop. We got a lot of really great, awesome supplements. One of my most favorite one is magnesium glycinate. Lots of people are not having adequate magnesium levels. Why? Because our food has been robbed of magnesium and other nutrients and other vital, essential parts of our diet that we used to have in there, but no longer have. This is something that I take usually with my last meal of the day. And a lot of people, like this human upgrade on Twitter, say that it's the most underrated nervous system healer on earth. It calms anxiety. And this is where when I went on my first journey, I'm like, holy cow, I got anxiety. I'm getting a bad anxiety. I'm freaking out. I haven't taken care of my health. I made some really poor decisions traveling all over the world, eating a lot of seed oils and all the nonsense, and not really prioritizing my mental health as I worked in like places like Somalia and Venezuela and other kind of despotic type of war zones and bedlam. And I'm like, I need help. And I'm like, okay, ashwagandha is good. We got that available too. And then I'm like, okay, what else do I take? Magnesium glycinate. Lots of people's nervous systems are fried, by the way. Meditate, relax, take care of your sleep, work out, try to have less stress in your life. But you want the cheat sheet? I want the cheat sheet. I want extra support. Because the older you get, the more your system needs things like magnesium in order to operate and fully run properly. So I've started to take magnesium, and I'm like, man, this feels great. It made me feel good. It might make you feel good. It improves sleep. According to some people, according to Human Upgrade, he says it heals trauma loops. I don't know if I would go that far. And he says it could rewire your stress response. Again, other people have a lot of different things to say, but a lot of people who feel tired or mentally foggy or anxious, they take this supplement and it usually helps them. Lots of people deficient in magnesium. Do your own homework. And a lot of people say it helps them with OCD. Again, do your own homework before putting anything into your own body. We are change.shop. We make sure we got some of the best high quality premium products out there. Now, let's discuss this type of major escalation and this type of situation that we're in that's extremely uncomfortable for everyone, as the Vice President of the United States, who is not a supporter of Ukraine, but now is going along this type of new policy from Donald Trump, which is a flip-flop of his old policy and needs to be called out, and has a very now aggressive posture against Russia. J.D. Vance is joining the President of the United States and made a public statement saying that the United States is looking at selling Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Now, this would be a game changer, right? Because this would absolutely not just change the landscape of battle, but put Russia in a position where they're being attacked by something that they can't defend against. Tomahawk missiles are advanced guided missile systems that are extremely precise, that fly in low elevation. Pardon my broken second English language understanding. That fly in low altitudes, are very hard to detect, and could carry nuclear payloads. Now, the way that they are used pretty much would mean that the United States would have to ship them there, along with their personnel, along with their satellite tech, along with everything else that needs these missiles to fire off. And they would just have a Ukrainian standing by, and the Ukrainian would just press the button. And Russia's like, dude, you're doing everything. You just have a Ukrainian next to you. You're doing everything, United States. And that's where a lot of people are like, yeah, this is just, if this happens, this would mean that this would be a full, all-out major escalations that the Russians would see as a potential nuking of their country. Because Russia could assume, oh, these Tomahawk missiles, they can have nuclear warheads. And they're flying at us right now. What do? Get the nuclear warheads out before we get nuked. They also have a dead man switch, too. Again, Russia just put their nuclear force on full alert. They did many war games in Kaliningrad, and the situation doesn't look good at all. Now, we even have major military analysts and security firms coming out and saying, yeah, this is the game changer that if used here could invoke Russia's nuclear doctrine.
To start with, this is the clarifier. I do not speak for the President of the United States, simply because he speaks for himself quite clearly.
As former Lieutenant General.
And he is the one who sets the policy of the United States of America, not Keith Kellogg. Let me start at the back and move my way forward. You asked about the comment about the Tomahawk missiles. The Tomahawk is a very advanced missile system in the United States. It's probably one of our high-end systems. You always read about it when we do a military strike somewhere in the world. It's generally led off by a Tomahawk missile strike. From what I understand, and I was not in the meeting, from what I understand, reading the public reports, is that issue of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine was brought up by President Zelensky.
Yep, and then J.D. Vance just confirmed it. And now there's big debates happening right now about what's going to be happening next, as we have other people saying, hey, everyone's talking about these Tomahawks, but there's a lot of other things also at play here. And listen, with these kind of escalatory trajectories here, we have Alexander Dugin, who is deemed Putin's brain. There was an assassination attempt on his life that took the life of his daughter, who also was another kind of political commentator. And he says, Russia was too shy and too patient with the collective West crossing all red lines put by us. Such attitude has ended. The Tomahawks given to Kiev mean U.S. declares the war to Russia. Yeah. This is game changing. This is big here. And this is a decision that is in the hands of Donald Trump right now. Now, again, this is what's being debated. This is what's being talked about. Is this just kind of a scare tactic by Donald Trump here? As of course, he's kind of following a globalist neoconservative doctrine. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And I think Alexander Dugin has a point when it comes to this, as he calls this Trump realigning with the deep state. Now, if he keeps us in this war and expanding it and growing it, it's not good for everyone. We had the official Russian response here talking about what this means for everybody.
Many loud statements are now coming from Washington. Trump's special envoy does Moscow allies. I do not think that we are already dealing with a decision that has been made. The Americans do not supply Tomahawks to just anyone.
And then he talked about how this is a major deal, major escalation. As right now, there are intelligence reports coming out and other kind of unverified reports talking about how there's going to be a false flag. Now, Russia came out with this with some of their political and military leadership yesterday, saying there's going to be a false flag, an attack by Ukraine on either Poland or Romania to make it look like it's Russia that attacked them. This, of course, especially if it happens to Poland, would mean that NATO Article 5 is invoked. It would mean that this would be a very kind of serious escalation, as already there were a lot of crazy scenarios unfolding in Poland as UK fighter jets are flying on the east coast of Poland right now, ready to shoot down any Russian drones. And they have been shooting down a lot of Russian drones. As Donald Trump has said, hey, next airspace violation, NATO's should shoot down Russian aircraft. Not just drones, Russian personnel, Russian service members of their military. Now, there's another situation, specifically when it comes to the nuclear reactor in Zaporizhia. As the IAEA is sounding the alarms right now, talking about how there's a risk of a full-on nuclear meltdown. Now, if this happens, that would be a major big deal, and it would create a critical situation that would obviously create escalatory type of situations that would make sure that there would be more military involvement than ever regarding this particular situation. And that would potentially also make a big impact on not just Russia, but the rest of Europe, Belarus, Poland, all these other countries that would be very negatively affected by this. Now, the Russians previously blamed the Ukrainians for bombing this. The Ukrainians usually blamed the Russians for bombing this facility before. There have been skirmishes and fights happening in this region. And, you know, fighting in the nuclear reactor could give them the excuse of another form of proxy nuclear type of conflict here. Now, on the other hand, we're hearing Western powers say Russia and Belarus now could be doing their own sabotage attack against Poland, which they would try to blame Ukraine on, which I just don't see the world kind of falling for. I mean, that has already sort of happened. Like if you remember a couple years ago, there was a rocket that fell in Poland and took the life of Polish farmers. Automatically, Zelensky was like, Article NATO 5, it's Russia. Russia did it. Go attack Russia. Poland, go attack Russia now. And Poland was like, hold on, let's investigate this. And they investigated this, and it was a missile defense system from Ukraine that accidentally flew over to Poland and took the life of some Polish citizens. But that phone call, that Zelensky statement, the Ukrainian government automatically saying, Russia, 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 go attack Russia, go attack Russia, was very revealing, to say the least here. Now, let's pray that there's not a nuclear disaster. And I think we're in a position right now where anything and everything can happen. I'm looking at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. I'm looking at what could happen in Poland. Poland previously blamed a mall fire on Russia, saying that it specifically attacked their infrastructure, and this was a Russian sabotage attack. The UK has very serious other allegations against factories and major facilities in the UK that allegedly also was a Russian type of attack. Whether it was or wasn't, we are dealing with a weird type of warfare where everyone is on edge, everyone is saber rattling, and there's no one trying to walk back. There's no one trying to de-escalate, and everyone's kind of pointing at each other being, you're going to do the false flag. No, you're going to do it. We're going to do it. No, you're going to do it. No, me, you, no, who, what, no way. And I'm like, could we just not? Could we just could we take it easy for a little bit? Could we just could we try to meditate? Could we try to take it easy for a little bit? If you agree that should happen, let me know. I wanted to ask you, who do you think is going to be committing the next false flag? I want to ask you that, right? Because, listen, all the major wars throughout recording human history, there's always something. If you look at Europe, if you look at the Polish radio station attack, right? If you look at the Reichstag fire. If you look at the way that even Germany first started bombing Poland, it was all under the guise of a diplomatic mission, right? It was all under the guise of like, no, we're going to communicate. And then in Westerplatte, the Germans came in and then they were just surprise, MFer, bombing you. I usually visit that place when I visit Poland. I didn't go this year, but very important historical type of place here. Now, Polish soldiers are shooting from like these like special installed like basement, a little bunker things that the Germans had a very difficult time dealing with. They also didn't set their artillery correctly, and they made some mistakes, and they weren't even bombing the right place. That's why Westerplatte was able to kind of stand up, and the Polish kind of movement resistance was able to fight back against the Germans as successfully as they did. I'll do a full video when I go back to Poland, if it's still there, if there's not a false flag and not an internal big conflict and war that's unfolding. So yeah, there's that. I love my people. Slavic lives matter. This war should end. If you agree, share this video. Thank you so much for supporting your nervous system health, getting magnesium glycinate. We Are Changed on shop. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more. All here exclusively on youtube.com/We Are Changed.